we're live. Build working group for Node.js on, what is it, Tuesday the 25th of August. And we may as well jump straight to Will, who's going to talk to us about Docker.
Right on. Okay, so right now with the build working group, the Docker working group, we're looking at adding some extra images, but one of the prerequisites for that is we want to have some solid testing infrastructure in place beforehand so we can make sure that we don't regress in features and stuff when we ship like the Alpine Linux image. Some work has been done around tooling for that. So we have a command line tool right now that is in a pretty good place. It's called Dante. You basically run it and it'll automatically handle all of the builds, and it'll return 1 for fail and 0 if it passes. So basically right now what we need is we need to stand up a Jenkins server with Docker on it. And I didn't know what you guys' opinion was on whether or not we should provision a new server for this or integrate this into the current build infrastructure we have. Yeah, so we're at the point now where we need to stand this up on a server, and I just wanted to get you guys' input before I went and I guess did it myself.
Well, perhaps you can tell me. So this Jenkins master will just orchestrate a lot of builds of Docker images. Then is that it?
Exactly. So when you get a pull on GitHub, what we're hoping to have is it'll basically kick off Dante on the server, and Dante handles building the Docker containers and running the unit tests against them, and it'll return a status if it passes or fails, and it writes everything to standard out. So wiring that up to Jenkins server is what we're looking at doing right now.
I mean, Rod, you've been doing most of the setup of the Jenkins master. Do you have any thoughts on this? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any strong opinion, to be honest. But I reckon we probably want Rod's opinion since
Sorry.
he'll probably be redeploying it. Oh, there we go. Yes, Rod, I was just asking you whether or not you have an opinion about this since you've been doing most of the host for the Jenkins master.
Yeah. Will, do you have admin access to Jenkins?
I don't think I do anymore. I'll double check when I get off this call.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think this is a problem. The only issue is that we are getting close to quota on our DigitalOcean account, and I'm hesitant to ping them to increase that quota. So we either use Rackspace or decommission one of our existing ones. We do still have those 2 containers machines that they're not being used at all on DigitalOcean. So until we actually start using them, we could decommission those and replace them with a testing server. How much grunt does this need, Will?
So right off the bat, like the base image is going to take about 600 megs of disk space just to have build back depths, which is what we build off of on the server. And then every time we build, we're going to add about 34 megs worth of like new layers just to pull down the new version of Node and build that. And then each unit test that runs, I think for all the unit tests combined, depending on the extent, like how much we want. Right now I basically re-implemented all of your smoke tests that you and CJ put together in a Docker file that runs on top of them, and I think that pulls down about 1 gig worth of dependencies that are going to be captured on disk. So I think every time a test runs, we're looking about adding half a gig to 1 gig worth of disk space. So we'll probably chew through disk space pretty quick. That's the bottleneck. Processing speed, like we won't be chewing up a lot of CPU. I think it'll be single-threaded on almost everything.
Okay. Now the dependencies for this software dependencies are Go, I assume, for Dante. That's right.
No, it's a binary binary package, so you don't need to have Go installed. I cut a binary release, so you just need the Dante binary on the server in the path.
Okay, so is that the only dependency? That and Docker.
That and
presumably.
Docker, yes, I believe so. Everything else is going to be inside of the Docker containers themselves.
Right,
But
and so there's not going to be any. Is there any port usage on this, like internet port, network
I don't
port?
believe so. No.
Because we could just stick it on one of our existing machines.
That's what I wanted to know, if you wanted to do this on one of your existing servers without provisioning a new one.
Yeah, because it's not going to be frequently used, only during releases, presumably.
Right, or if we're doing something like adding the Alpine Linux, I have a feeling like there'll be like a couple pushes a week on that one. But
maybe we should do it on the Debian 8 machine, which is quite fast already, and that's on Rackspace. Set up a separate user account on there. Put a new Jenkins slave process there.
okay.
Yeah, let's try that.
One of the things I have is I do have Jenkins in a Docker image with Docker inside of that Docker image. And the only reason I think that's important, I know it sounds ridiculous, but in order to give the proper ability for Jenkins to kick off a Docker build, it's executing that to the Docker daemon as root. So putting that inside of a container can limit what can happen if they find a way to, break that system. So it limits damage on that host.
Can we just not add the Jenkins user as to the Docker group? Isn't that good enough?
But then it won't be able to kick off the Docker image builds, and it needs that in order to run Dante. Dante kicks off or talks to the Docker daemon to kick off the builds, and the user that's running Dante will have to have or be in the Docker group.
But so that means you don't actually need root to get that going. Is that right?
You don't need root. You need to be in the Docker group, though.
Right.
And the Docker group, you're executing commands against the Docker daemon, which is running as root.
Right.
So essentially, if you can trick the Docker daemon into doing things that it's not meant to do, you're executing those commands as root.
Okay.
I mean, that's a very low concern. I have a feeling that we'll run into other problems with people trying to trick our systems into doing things they're not supposed to before we run into people tricking the Docker daemon. But it is something to consider.
Yeah, right. So it's a test machine, so the security risk is low anyway, and also it will only be accessible by anyone that can run Jenkins jobs. So this is an even smaller group. So I don't see a big risk there. Okay. How urgent is this?
I wouldn't say pressing matter. Couple weeks. I would say we don't need it for the next couple weeks. I mean, there's a few things that are depending on this, like shipping the Alpine Linux image. And if we're looking at actually with the efforts around LTS, if we're actually looking at supporting Docker images as part of that LTS, this would have to be in place in order for me to be comfortable saying yes, the LTS version of Node that's contained inside of this Docker image is stable. Because right now we're not smoke testing it, we're just shipping it, and there's no way of guaranteeing that it's actually doing what we're saying it's doing. So I guess it depends on how important that is to you guys.
So I'm just trying to trim the scope to get full version 4 out. So anything that we can take away that's a distraction.
So I would say get version 4 out before you guys focus on this. I think that's a very fair thing to say.
Okay, do you want to open an issue for us in the build repo, just to note this? I'll put some notes in the doc in the minutes, but
sure.
Yeah.
Just a thought, but I mean, we have the hardware we have that's in Rackspace. I mean, we could actually start looking into virtualizing that, because the more we work with Ccation and parallelizing the test suite, it's like the runs are going into minutes instead of tens of minutes and 30s of minutes. So I mean, we could start chopping up the hardware that's pretty beefy.
Yeah. The Debian 8 machine is the only non-Windows one we have there. One rack space. I think I mentioned somewhere. No, I didn't mention it to this group. That I did want to look at reducing our spend with rack space. Not that we're actually spending, but we are going through a bit of money with them if we were to be paying them, and they are aware of this, and then it's fine by them. But I don't want to be pushing that friendship too much. And one of the reasons is that we've got really beefy machines, so we should consider scaling back that Debian 8 machine because it's one of the quickest machines in our cluster. The Windows machines, I don't know if we can really do much about them because we need them as fast as possible because they're slow to compile anyway, and we can't do any caching.
Yeah, we could do some messing around with limiting resources. I mean, the Windows machines, they spend most of the time in linking the binary, Node.js binary. So, I mean, we could like reduce RAM and drive and disks, but I don't know what the bottleneck is at Rackspace, but there's probably some stuff to do if we wanted to.
Okay. Well, let's just focus on this thing for now, and we'll make these notes about Docker, and move on.
We have the CLang machine I've been playing around with as well on Rackspace. We can just re-provision to something else. So I can actually do that today.
Sorry, what was that one?
We have a CLang machine I was playing around with a few weeks ago with getting replacing MS Build and similar in Windows. And that machine is well, it's not really used, but it's up and running, so we can reprovision that, and I can just run in VM locally for now.
We should get serious about Visual Studio 2015.
Yeah.
So maybe we should switch that.
Yeah, I'm working on setting that up. And we're going to have some new Windows resources soon.
Oh.
All right, from Node.js, the Azure resources. From
the ones that we were using for the old Jenkins for join Node. We're not going to need them anymore. And we have a $2,000 a month spend on Azure.
Okay. I've made some notes about that. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Just to make sure I have fully, I was reading through the notes. So we're going to set up a slave in the main Docker or the main Jenkins dashboard. Will show the build status for the Docker working group.
Yeah. So what we'll do is probably just bootstrap it for you to go in there and configure. So you'll be able to make your own Jenkins job or jobs and script them via Jenkins how you want them to, and just make sure that the pieces are in place on that server, and probably give you access to that server, that user as well on that server to go in there and tweak it as you need.
That's fantastic.
So it'll be mainly us bootstrapping it for you to take over.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, great. So just give me a moment. I'm going to check my email before I give any status update. just to see if any new certificates or anything have come in. No. Okay. That's disappointing. So status is that we have SSL certificates for the wildcard certificates for for Node.js.org and iojs.org. That's done there in the secrets repository. We are in progress with a signing certificate for Microsoft Authenticode. That's still held up, surprisingly. They said they were going to process that one yesterday. I believe it's held up because they're trying to verify the foundation that actually exists. So, yeah, that's an annoying process, but I'm not sure why that's still pending. The more complicated one is Apple. We're trying to get an Apple account for the foundation. They need to, again, verify that the foundation exists. And the foundation has only existed for a little while, so it doesn't have quite everything in place. So the verification process is taking a little bit of time. Actually, I'm just logging into Apple now, and it's asking me to continue the enrollment. Ooh, I think it might be done. I think we might have Apple stuff now. I don't know why I didn't get a notification about this. And what else is missing? Oh, DNS. So I'm in touch with all the right people to get DNS switched over to a new DNS provider. That's on pause because we are also figuring out CDN. And if we go with Cloudflare, then they want to handle our DNS so that they can control the Apex domain to serve that, which is okay. So we're still dealing with Cloudflare to get them, or get a test account set up at least. So, yeah. If once we get that sorted out, then we can stick that in front of the website. I'm hesitant to go live without a CDN if we can help it, because the traffic is so high on Node.js.org, and then switching over from the existing machines to new machines without really having a good handle on exactly how much load that'll put on the machine. It's going to be tricky.
We could, just a quick note to the having to make a DNS decision process. We could sub-delegate the name service for like download.nodejs.org instead of the main host, and then just let Cloudflare handle that.
Well, what we need to make the changeover as smooth as possible, and we can't change the fact that people download it from nodejs.org/dist.
We could redirect that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of existing use out there that doesn't honor redirects, and we're also, I don't know if you've tuned into the thread on the website repo that I filed the other day, that strict SSL isn't enabled on nodejs.org because there are versions of NVM floating around that don't honor redirects. So, and that's just SSL. That's just redirecting from HTTP to HTTPS. So even putting a redirect in there is a huge risk, because there's curl, there's unguarded curl usage, all that sort of stuff. So we can do that in the future, I think, but for now we need to make it as low impact as possible so that when we do the switch over, we're not scrambling for a week to recover and to all these issues that get filed, and also we don't disrupt the community and the existing ecosystem that is using that site. Like it's going to be big enough just changing the website, so as minimal impact as possible. And the thing about Cloudflare is they do have an API, so we can actually share usage of that across the build team, and we can build tooling around that like we would with Route 53. So I'm confident about Cloudflare if they're going to give us free access. And and they have a full DNS solution with the API, so that's cool by me.
Okay.
So other things. So I'm just finishing up the initial parts of the Ansible script for the new web server. I was doing that last night, and that's really close to being done. And that's part of that exercise is capturing what we're currently doing with iojs.org, which is out of sync with our Ansible script for that. We're just realizing while I'm doing it how out of sync it is, and it's not great. So getting that captured. And then we have to transfer all of the dist directory across, so we've got all those binaries from Node.js.org. Also iojs.org, we want to copy all that stuff to the new server so that we're serving that as well. And there's one complication of this new website that they're setting up, the website group. We're building it in a similar way to what we're building the Node.js website, where it just gets fed from the repo and just gets published automatically when they commit to master. But the Node.js.org website actually has a lot of cruft in the web directory. Like they're just serving random files. Like somebody's decided that they need to share a file, so they stuck it on the web server. And without combing through the logs, it's difficult to know what's needed or not. So either we have to comb through the logs to find out what's actually in use, or we just cut it off and say, sorry, it's not there anymore, or we actually copy stuff across and somehow serve it along with the new site. So either put them in the same directory or make aliases or something. Kind of tricky. But again, it goes back to that low impact thing we need to do where we don't disrupt too many users in this process. So beyond that, I'm not sure if there's any other status I need to fill you in on with regard to resources. So CI convergence is another issue. This is what I actually wanted to bring up. I mentioned this, Alexis, on Joint Node yesterday. I did say to you earlier that we needed to be able to produce O10 and O12 binaries from our unified Jenkins before we can switch this website across, because we need to still be able to produce those binaries in case of, well, we need to do it anyway, but we need to make sure we have the ability to do it in all cases, just in case we need to release an emergency security update and we're not left scrambling to make it work. But I'm wondering whether we can defer that pain until after version 4 by just leaving the existing Jenkins infrastructure in place for Joyent Node, and that the Joyent server as well, and then we can let that publish the build and promote process take place there, and then just use rsync to bring it across to the new server in the case of a release.
Yeah, the old infrastructure is still in place, so if it simplifies your job of shipping 4.0,
Yeah, and we can do the
option.
migration. Yeah, we can do the migration afterwards. I'm just saying that there's all these little things that need to fall into place, and that's one of the big ones. That's really intimidating. So if we can defer that pain, I'd be glad if we can.
Yes. Our sync is going to be easy.
I think so. We've got to set it up anyway to transfer the old binaries. So what I'll do is set up a either a new account or I'll put a I don't know. I'll make a new SSH ID and stick it somewhere on the joint server just for rsync to use, and then we can script it so that we just have like a command or a bash script to run that will actually run a full rsync from disk to disk, so that the old Node.js.org server is authoritative with regard to the download directory, and for Node, except for version 4, obviously. So we can just suck those across. So that should be easy, I think. It just means there's another step in the release process, but given that it's so manual already for joint Node, I don't see that as a big deal.
Right. So the binaries will be signed by joint certificates, though. Is that going to be an issue?
No, I think that can be that's a low priority changeover. So, and that's actually another issue as well. When we do a new release for 012 and 010 with foundation certificates, is that going to? Do you see any pain there for potential users, like corporate users, with certificate change? Is there some sort of verification that's going on with Windows, perhaps, where they might be verifying the certificate is a certain certificate? I'm just wondering whether there's going to be...
They might verify that there's a chain of trust, but assuming our new certificates will be trusted,
yeah,
the vast majority of cases won't be affected.
Right. Just wondering if there's anything I'm not seeing there with regard to switching those certificates. So I'm fine with them still being signed by joint. And we may not even have an 010, 012 release before we do changeover of where they're built. We just need to have the ability to do them if we.
Yeah, the two things are independent. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're +1 on that, then I'll note that down and we'll put that into action, and that will simplify version 4.
Right. That means also we can switch from the old repo to the new repo, right? We can do the repo migration. Doesn't affect the release process.
Yes.
Yeah, the release process relies on those old Jenkins servers, and we're not touching that. But other than that, it works on a private fork of the repo, so you need to
you're right.
do something else anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. And also the rename of the joint node repos is independent as well, so for the same reason.
Yeah, so I'll be able to pull the trigger on that this week after they approve that PR on the repo.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good then. I'll document that and we can move forward. Is there anything else we wanted to discuss? I'm sure there is. I'm just my mind is not so clear at this time of the morning.
Well, I wanted to discuss what it would take for us to have the foundation purchase some hardware. Like, we would like to parallelize some of the builds to make it faster. Also, some of the nodes, some of the labels have only one machine in them, which makes them single point of failure. So we could definitely use more hardware once we start parallelizing. I mean, I tested today the first parallel ARM build. So the infrastructure is there to parallelize the builds. And after that, we can lower the longest pole, and then we can go longest pole after longest pole and kind of make it faster, make it more redundant. So,
well,
do we need to wait for donations, or can we just say this is what we need and let's go get it?
Are we talking specifically for ARM here?
I'm talking for all platforms in general.
Right. So with ARM, you're right. You're absolutely right. We can just move forward and purchase that. We're starting to get money flowing from the foundation, so it's for small purchases. It's almost trivial. I've already got some resources coming in from donations. So Mini Nodes have contacted me. Oh, that's awesome. Mininodes.com. They're another ARM infrastructure as a service provider. They've just sent me an email offering access to, I think they got ARM V8 machines. Huh.
Yeah.
I think one way that we could go about it, is opening an account in one of the various clouds and get the hardware we need, and then once we get the donations, then turn off some of the resources that the foundation is paying for.
Right.
So they were not blocked on the donations, basically.
Right. Yeah. If we don't get right now we're tracking towards getting parallelizing ARM by 3 machines. Have you tested how long it takes to parallelize on 3?
I parallelized it on 2 and it's taking forever. It looks like Ccache is not getting a cache hit.
Oh, interesting.
A full build on 1 should take, the optimal run should be around 1 hour 30 to 1 hour 40.
No, this is taking much longer. I can send you a link on the build channel.
Okay. Well, if you look at the Jenkins dashboard, you'll see that the last run was 1 hour 32.
Does it have to do with the repo that it's coming from, or?
Well, it depends on how. Like, let's say the Ccache is getting purged. I don't think that's very likely. You put that on a shared NFS, didn't you, Rod?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that shouldn't really be a problem. So if it's cold in terms of like that V8 version isn't compiled yet, yes, it will take time. It will take lots of time. But if it's a version we've compiled before, it should be pretty quick or quick.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
okay. Yeah, maybe I use one of my forks on some older branch.
Yeah, if it's older, then that's going to be why. So I think when we get stale or cache misses is when we have the biggest ones are when we have V8 upgrades and also major tweaks to the build settings. So one of them is release builds, which change a bunch of variables like node version and node release version, node release flag. There's just there's a couple of settings in there that somehow give us lots of cache misses that shouldn't do, but apparently do.
Yeah, actually, I take it back. I started it on a pretty recent. I started on a PR that is off of master, so it's pretty recent.
Did you? Was there anything else changed other than the new flags?
Nothing else. Well, I guess we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay. Well, maybe when it's done, do another one just to follow up straight up, and you might get a speed up.
Yeah. So we have 5 machines for the P1s, right? 5-1.
Yes. Well, and I've ordered another. I ordered another one last night, and I'm not getting the rush of donations. I've got an original Raspberry Pi being donated, but we can't use that right now. So if we can wait till the end of the week, and if we don't have the donations that we want, then I'll go ahead and get the foundation to buy us maybe enough so that we can have 8 of each of the pies, so that we can parallelize across 4. Does that sound good?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I'll do that by the end of the week. So give it by the end of the week to let people know. I want to give people a chance to contribute and own into this, because the people that have really feel a good connection with the project. But if people are not stepping up to do that, then that's fine, and we'll just move on.
Sure, sounds good. Anyway, we won't really have too much hardware. We can always add more tests or make things faster.
That's right. We're getting close to 1,000 tests now.
Yeah, that's good.
So what's after, if we knock off the Raspberry Pis? What's next slowest? Because my impression is that Windows is one of the slower ones.
Yeah, it might be Windows.
Yeah,
what
Windows
can we
is the
do?
one.
What can we do to deal with Windows?
Parallelize it.
Right. So we need much more resources for that.
Yeah, I'm bringing some resources from the old join.
Do you know how have you got any numbers on how long the runs take on the Azure machines compared to our Rackspace machines? Is it faster, slower?
Well, in the old Jenkins, we're using very beefy machines.
Okay.
Like we're using 8 cores. But if we're going to go the parallel avenue, then it makes sense to use smaller machines. So we'll make a couple of experiments with different configuration. It's easy to do with Azure and see which one is faster.
Yeah, so I mean, I've done some testing in this, and it looks like, I mean, most of the compile time is in the linker, and the machines we have running now, they have 8 cores as well, or CPUs or whatever it is, and it's just like plowing through the tests and plowing through most of the compile. But then when it comes to linking, it just sits there for 5 minutes. The runs we have now, they take 15 minutes. And I've been looking around, and I don't know too much we can do about this other than start parallelizing the test runner. And I mean...
the linker is actually doing the compilation. There's a switch called link time code generation. So all the code generation is happening in link time. So that's why you're seeing that.
The problem is that linker is not run on multiple cores. It's just run on one core. So if you look at the process monitor, it just sits in one core. And I had a look at that, but I don't know what to do really.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. If something can be done.
Yeah, there's one flag you pass to MS Build to tell it to use as many cores as possible, but it doesn't seem to do that for that specific case.
For linking, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like in terms of parallelizing the test build, we still have introducing the uppercase J flag to the test suite, which I tried just a few days ago, and for Windows and for FreeBSD and a lot of other machines, it's just so much quicker. I think I ran a full compile and test with Zcash on FreeBSD machines for 1 minute 50 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean the Windows suite is as quick. We're just sitting and waiting for the linker. So like, and I actually came to the conclusion that there's less work we have to do to make this work. The biggest problem was the node pipe thing we're still using, which I thought was a Windows issue, but the Windows build bots just didn't have a problem without it. So the only stopper, we're moving into what I need to work with now, but the only stopper is the SmartOS machines, which seems to have a minor issue with it. But we're pretty close to being able to parallelize tests on hardware as well, which means that the time spent on Linux tests will be at least reduced by half. So like from 16 minutes to around 8 minutes. I don't know how much this will affect the Raspberry Pis, probably not by much at all. So that's still the platform we need to parallelize in terms of hardware. But for the other ones, I think it's more about redundancy than it is about beefier hardware.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. I'll try and make some notes of this in the doc, which we haven't touched. Yeah, and then so when I get this Apple ID sorted out, and the Windows one. I can switch over the builds for IOJS, and particularly for the Microsoft ones, I think we actually need a period of time for people to start using it, for Windows to start trusting it. It's not automatic trust, so getting them onto IOJS builds would probably be helpful, so that when 4.0 lands, it's there is already trust established. So it'd be nice to get this sorted out. And I can also give everyone access to the resources there where there's node source certificates in use, because I can remove all them. Not everyone, but the core group of people who we give access to release stuff, which is, I think, basically you two. So, yeah. Okay, anything else anyone wants to discuss?
Oh.
Any concerns about 4.0? I'll try and delegate as much as I can to you guys for tasks that I have on, because I've got a lot on my plate for this. I'd appreciate your help with the website, with reviewing the Ansible stuff for the website when I update that.
Sure. I'm still a few PRs back, but I'll try and catch up this week.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, let's wrap it up then.
All right. Take care, guys.
Cool.
Okay. See you tomorrow, Alexis.
Yep.
Okay,
Bye.
See ya.